Yeah, hi, this is Mike Swanson again. I just want to follow up with you on the last conversation we had about you moving down to the Bahamas. How is it that someone can move down here as a Canadian or American citizen?
Well, it's an interesting place to move down to. It's actually still very open. It's not. You don't have to be filthy rich. They obviously want people who have some sort of income and are doing well down here. It's not just like some guy on welfare is going to move to the Bahamas, right? So, but how I did it is essentially, it was pretty easy. I actually had a common friend who was renting an apartment down here, so I had a bit of a connection, which made it easier. So I rented an apartment, came down here more as a frequent visitor at first to see if I would like it, and I liked the lifestyle. Like I said, on a personal note, it was a difficult thing because you're moving away from your friends and family, and it's a totally different way of living and the whatnot, right? So how you can do it is basically the way I do it at the moment is I have a lease. My residency is based on my lease, and I show them that I have proper financial backing.
But you're not a full citizen right now.
No, I'm a resident. I'm a temporary resident.
Are you trying to become? Is your goal to become one?
Well, I'm going to become a permanent resident, but because I do invest in the market and the whatnot. Because I do invest in the market and the whatnot, what I'm going to do is, once hopefully the commodity stocks and that sort of thing. I'm also starting a small fund which I'm managing, so I'm doing these things first. But once, basically in 3 to 4 years, I'm waiting for real estate to cool off as well. If you buy a place in the Bahamas worth at least $500,000, you then become able to get your permanent residency.
Okay.
And they kind of expedite the problems because they want investment in the country. Because that's the one tax you do pay. You pay a stamp tax. So if you buy a place worth over $500,000, you'll pay a 10% tax. But it's kind of like to never pay any income tax the rest of your life.
Yeah,
you're
gladly $50,000, whatever.
You pay $50,000 a year, probably, right? You'll pay, yeah, exactly. Paying $50,000 one time is well worth it, right? So, I guess doing it's a philosophical thing where some people believe it's their obligation and they think the government does good things. I'm in the Ron Paul libertarian mode. I've seen government in action, and I think it does more harm than good. And I just morally I don't mind paying a little bit. Like, for example, I'm setting up a new company for my newsletter, which is an Irish company, and the corporate tax is 10% or 11%. I have no problem paying that, right? But when it gets excessive to the point where you got to pay half your income, I just had a real problem. So yeah, the way I did it is I rented an apartment. It was kind of like a vacation rental. I came down here frequently. I liked it. And then I just applied for temporary residency, and they approved it, and they just renew that every year. Then I think I like it enough down here. Well, I'll become a permanent resident.
But being a permanent resident is not being. It's not like a citizen. You're not going to vote.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get Bahamian citizenship because it's such a small country of about 350,000 people that I guess they just don't want to dilute the citizenship, right? Because if you have 20, 30,000 expats living down here, you increase the population by 10%, right? Yeah, so you're a resident. But again, the British rule of law, the property rights structure is the same as basically what we have in North America, is extremely strong. And because real estate, because there is a lack of natural resources and etc., real estate is one of their big, drivers of the economy, and especially foreign investment in real estate. It's not like living in some of these Latin American countries where you can buy something and maybe the government will seize it. Like if you lived in Venezuela or something like that, you don't have to worry about that at all. And from a social standpoint, I find it's very integrated down here. Obviously I'm in the minority being Caucasian here, and you never feel uncomfortable. Like I go to, I can be blunt about this, I go to a movie and I'm the only white guy in the theater, and it's fine. There's no problem with that whatsoever. I've got white friends, black friends, everybody down here.
So there's not much. I'm wondering how is it different? I guess there's not much. You wouldn't say compared to the United States or wherever. There's not much tension, racial tension, or none at all.
You're gonna have some of that, but I would find actually a lot less down here. Like I find most, and basically I'm hanging around the kind of people who are like that too. You're not finding that at all. Like I've never. Like at first it is because you're not used to that environment. Like you're used to being in the majority when I was in Canada, but it's really, I really have no problem with it whatsoever. So, and just to kind of elaborate on moving down here is that I think the problem now in this financial crisis is the governments, we're moving to kind of governments grabbing more power. Obviously, like, again,
definitely.
I try not to get too political, but obviously with both the Democrats going to be probably in the presidency, the election's tomorrow, as we're taping this, and the Congress and Senate, you're going to see higher taxes, you're going to see more regulation. So I'm actually setting up a side venture called taxfreeparadise.com, and we're going to kind of, and I just think, I'm going to tell people how maybe you can become free of taxes and maybe free of big government, because and these sort of things, and maybe how, if you're interested, to move offshore. And the really interesting thing, what we're going to do on this site is we're going to talk about not just banking systems and investing. We're going to talk about the lifestyle. Like, I'll talk about good restaurants in the Bahamas, and I'll go to other, like I'll go to the Caymans and places like this, and talk about what it's like to live in these places. So I think it'll be a real unique thing. And again, I'm not trying to get too down on North America or anything, but it's just a shift that you can kind of see happening. And it's kind of like, look at they outlawed short selling, right? They stopped short selling for a while. It's just a matter of time before.
Well, the problem with that kind of stuff is they do these things, and they don't know what the hell they're doing. I mean, they outlaw the short sales, and all they do is add more volatility to the market.
Yeah.
They don't save these banks. The banks aren't falling because of the short sellers. But it's not just that the government is trying to tax you more or grab more power, because they don't know a lot of time what they're doing. So they're just messing up. I mean, look at the war,
They make the problem worse.
Now they made it worse with this stock market stuff. And
how were hedge funds making money? Because they didn't stop dropping off, a cliff until July.
Yeah.
They were shorting financials.
That's right.
And then when they outlawed shorting financials, or stopped it, they had no way to make money. So then all of a sudden, they're all losing money because they can't do it.
And it causes more problems.
And then it causes more redemptions, and they have to dump everything.
Yeah.
So I think the government played a big role in causing
by being incompetent.
By being incompetent. So you look at, again, I'm not going to get too into politics, but, there's a certain individual saying, he wants to crack down on offshore tax havens, right? Okay, it's Obama, why not I'll say, right? Well, what's going to happen? You're going to, really get aggressive with it. You're going to raise rich people's taxes. They're going to get more aggressive about moving money offshore. They're not going to get, they're not going to, say, oh, okay, here's my assets, here's, if anything, it's like the Laffer curve, which I believe in, right? That when you cut taxes, it raises government's revenues because people are more willing to report taxes, to work harder, to make more money, where if you raise them, there's a bigger underground economy, there's more people moving assets and the whatnot. So, and with the governments doing all these massive bailouts and running massive deficits around the globe, what I just think is that there's going to be a bigger grab. So that's why, and again, I just think that people should consider, some kind of, I have to feel, I feel almost uncomfortable at saying it because you're worried about governments. But I think, people have to consider some kind of offshore nest egg.
Well, what scares me personally, I don't have any, I'll pay my taxes. I don't, whatever. I'm not personally. I don't like them being raised on me.
Yeah.
But I'll pay the check. I'm just gonna do what I'm supposed to do.
And I did when I lived in Canada.
I'm not gonna, put myself at risk of getting in trouble. But what scares me is that, this isn't happening now or anything, but that the possibility of one day down the road, the Fed is printing money like crazy. I mean, gold is of course dropped, but what if inflation totally explodes a couple years down the road and they do the hyperinflation stuff and the dollar literally goes to zero, and every time something like that's happened in a country throughout all histories, they've slapped capital controls so you can't get out, and that's what I'm scared of. So I'm almost thinking I need to set up some sort. I mean, I don't, I haven't even looked into how to do it, but I need to set up an offshore account
one problem,
I can, be prepared in case something like that happens.
I think the problem I had was scapegoating. When oil prices going up, it was because of speculation.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. It's the hedge funds making oil go up. The speculators made the bank stocks crash.
Oh, exactly. And then, so the next one is I agree with you because I believe the American dollar is ultimately going to start going lower again. It will be those damn speculators. Yeah. That's who they'll blame everything on.
So if inflation goes up we've seen it real high the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Say it's 5% or 10% a year. the first step. You know, let's try to do price and wage controls.
Yeah.
You know, they won't work. Nixon did that. It didn't work.
Disaster.
And if things explode after that, then they're going to say, well, it's the speculators. Now we're not going to allow you to switch your dollars out and buy, you know, some other currency. And then you're totally screwed. So I don't want to ever face that kind of situation. So I need to, like, and I'm not saying that's going to happen in a year or anything like that. Maybe it won't happen, but I should at least consider the possibility of it. And be prepared, you know, like buying fire insurance or something.
No, I think you and I'm not a doomsday type guy, but this is actually, I didn't worry about this until about the ban on shorting came, because I just didn't like the fact that
it made me feel really uncomfortable.
They changed the rules as they went along. That I did not.
They didn't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and it was just like, okay, you can't short. And I told a friend of mine, if you imagine a private company did that, right? Changed the rules, like an oil company said, okay, no one can buy gas for less than $4. They would be the biggest monopolist. The government would be going after them. You can't do that, blah, blah, blah. So the government, it's the problem. It makes its own rules. And the problem is they have the power, so what can you do about it? You know, they legislate.
I didn't mean to get off. You know, we weren't planning on talking about this and getting on this tangent. Well, you know, before we start talking about this, we were going to wrap up and talk about the investment conference we're putting together in March.
Well, again, we talked about it because I probably will have one or two experts on offshore things, you know, but mostly be investing, you know, like just the philosophies and the whatnot. But I think that's an added bonus. We're talking about moving down here. And you know, and some offshores kind of things.
So basically, we plan on putting one on down here in the Bahamas
in March,
around March or so.
Over there, you can see Atlantis in the distance there, right? And we're gonna you know, we were just there earlier today, and we're gonna put a conference that will have like investment philosophy, some of our trading things. And it'll just be a lot of fun. We're gonna have a luncheon. We're gonna have a half-day seminar. We're gonna probably have some dinners. One at a very nice house. In a very nice gated community, and the other one maybe even on a yacht. So we're going to have, like, you know, just be a great way for our subscribers to meet each other and like-minded investors to meet each other, right? So if you're interested, we're looking forward to having you. And it's the Nassau Investment Conference, and it's run by Investment Vacations. So you .com. So you can go to investmentvacations.com or BahamasInvestmentConference.com. You know.
Like I said, our goal, you know, is to make it educational. You'll be able to write it off your taxes because it's for business or investment expense. And we're going to have a good time too. I mean, you know, I'm sitting here drinking a beer. Well, you know, that tells you we like to have a good time.
There's a bit of rum in this.
So we look forward to, you know, talking to you in the future, and who knows, maybe we'll see you come down there.
Yes.
So talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Stay free.